I appreciate that. I'll just focus all my questions on you, perhaps. Our next session, How Technology is Shaping the Future of Assessment, Imagine the Possibilities, features a presentation by Liberty Munson. Liberty is the director of Psychometrics at Microsoft, an organization I'm sure we all recognize for its products. We're all using them pretty much, but many of us have probably never thought about Microsoft as being a credentialing organization, but they are. In fact, they have many certifications around their products. And the other unique thing in the IT industry is that the technology is changing so quickly, they have to do a lot with their credentials through, in a short span of time. They change frequently, they've got to rewrite items, they've got to rebuild assessments. So there's kind of a unique aspect there as well. So I'm especially excited to have Liberty share her thoughts and ideas with this group. And she's a thought leader in the assessment industry. Those of us that attend assessment conferences know that she generally does several talks at each conference, and she's often hard to actually get to because there are generally a group of people kind of following her around and asking her questions. So I acknowledge that most of you don't attend assessment conferences. I don't know why, but probably, you've got more important things. But so even though Liberty couldn't be here in person, we did want to take advantage of her offer to record a presentation. So without further delay, I challenge you to imagine the possibilities.
Hello, I'm Liberty Munson. I'm Microsoft Psychometrician on our technical certification program. I am responsible for ensuring that whatever tools, processes, or procedures we use to evaluate skills are valid and reliable so that when someone says they are Microsoft certified, they truly have the skills they need to be successful. I'm disappointed that I can't join you today in person, but I'm looking forward to hearing what ideas I'm about to present spark in your breakout conversations. Transformation is necessary. We all need to find new audiences to transform our businesses. The growth of the cloud is not only making computing and technology more prevalent, but it is also substantially increasing computing power. As we start to leverage this increased power, artificial intelligence is becoming more common in the technologies that we use every day. As a result, the cloud is fundamentally changing the way we interact with the world. Through the power of the cloud, AI, machine learning, and associated technologies will fundamentally change how we think about skills validation and assessment design, development, and delivery. These advances in technology are an opportunity for us to challenge the status quo around assessment. They will allow us to innovate. How can assessment developers leverage the power of the cloud and technology to more accurately measure skills, create higher fidelity in the assessment process? Throughout the history of psychometric assessment, we have relied heavily on structured responses such as multiple choice questions, on tests because these types of questions are easy to score, making the assessment process scalable, but they are artificial, low fidelity evaluations of those skills. Technology, however, is creating opportunities to think differently about the questions we ask, how we ask them, and how we evaluate responses. Here are some examples of the types of emerging technologies that could be harnessed to change the world of assessment. Machine learning, cognitive services, and artificial intelligence will form the basis of how we think about skills assessment in the future. With artificial intelligence, computers can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. They understand what they see and can communicate in natural language, answer complex questions, and interact with their environment. Machine learning and cognitive services are part and parcel to AI. As an example of the increasing pace of technology, companies are now starting to think beyond AI to ambient intelligence. Ambient intelligence allows people to complete everyday activities in an intuitive way using information and intelligence derived from the network of coordinated devices. Think of this as the Internet of Things. As these devices grow smaller and become more connected and integrated into our environment, the technology powering them becomes transparent, with only the user interface remaining perceivable by people in those environments. So the world is changing quickly. How do we leverage these advances to drive better skills assessment? It starts with job task analysis, position analysis, competency analysis, whatever you want to call it. That process you follow to identify the critical tasks that need to be completed and to successfully perform a job and the skills needed to accomplish those tasks. Leveraging telemetry, we can truly understand how people are performing their jobs. Today, we rely on often unreliable subject matter experts to help us define the job role, tasks performed, and skills and abilities needed for success. However, research consistently shows that true experts in a job often forget to include some of the basic tasks that they perform, or even what it was like to be when they were starting in a new role, resulting in a list of skills and abilities that misses some of the critical job tests that we should be evaluating in our exams. If we use telemetry to understand what people are really doing in their jobs and align that to their skill level, we will have a better understanding of what we should be assessing on our exams to determine competence. We will understand the criticality and importance of each task through a data-driven process rather than the subjective nature of SME-driven consensus. Constantly monitoring this telemetry will help us identify new and emerging tasks and skills that are needed for success and inform us on when to add those skills to the assessment process. This will also help us identify the frequency with which those tasks are performed and their outcomes when they're not performed correctly. Further, it can help us move beyond simple skills assessment to build learning into an everyday by identifying common mistakes and providing learning opportunities in the moment. This is not to say that we will no longer need subject matter expert input into identifying critical skills and abilities. They will be involved in refining the skills into something coherent that we can use for training and assessment development. But by building a job analysis on telemetry, we will have a much more accurate foundation for our skills evaluation process. Not only will telemetry help us quickly identify emerging tasks and skills and identify important but infrequent tasks, it may allow us to redefine what competence means by helping us better understand aspects of the skills that have largely been ignored, such as elegance or efficiency of a solution, the quality of the outcome, speed of implementation, problem solving, and so on. Prior to COVID, there was a fair amount of criticism and skepticism about the assessment industry, and the pandemic has brought that sentiment into an even starker relief. For example, many people who have been opposed to the assessment are seeing this as an opportunity to opt out on a grand scale. The recent decision in California that they will no longer require the ACT or SATs in their college application process by 2025 is just one of the examples of this. The risks that COVID has magnified include the risk that our audience will decide that objective measurement is irrelevant, easily replaced, or doesn't provide sufficient benefit for the associated costs. In addition, our reliance on our current item types, test delivery modalities, and psychometrics that have not evolved to reflect the needs of our stakeholders will undermine the testing industry. To address these risks, we need to understand what the consumers of our certifications and credentials want and create appropriate assessments. Multiple choice questions will not meet this need. So we must reimagine how we assess knowledge, skills, and abilities, and that starts with the question itself. As one example, a relatively non-technical improvement in item creation process is one that has been the backbone of automatic item generation, AIG. To be effective, AIG emphasizes cognitive models and mapping, and this approach is something more testing programs should embrace because it fundamentally changes the way that SMEs think about the skills and abilities being assessed, how those skills might be demonstrated in the assessment process, what's important and what's incidental. Essentially, item writers create a cognitive model by isolating exactly what they're trying to assess, the different ways that those attributes could be presented or evidenced, and by doing so, understand what's really important versus what's not. This in turn results in more relevant questions, increasing not only the psychometric validity, but the face validity of the assessment. While you can apply this logic to the item writing process without really needing any technological advances, to truly deliver these questions effectively, advanced technology is obviously required. Another innovative approach to item creation is Cavion's smart items concept. The goal of a smart item is to reduce the size of the item bank to ideally one item per objective, competency, ability, or skill. This one SMART test question covers the skill completely, prompting examinees to study the material more thoroughly and deeply. Let's go even further. Imagine a tool that reads text, watches videos, completes tutorials, and then identifies the instructional nature of the content and its key concepts to build a series of questions to assess someone's understanding, skill, or ability in only a few minutes or seconds. Does this sound crazy? Maybe, but I'm actually working on developing something along these lines right now, leveraging Microsoft's AI suite of tools. This goes beyond automatic item generation, the way we've traditionally thought about it, to something that's truly generating items immediately and automatically, if you can train the machine well enough. The technology may still be a bit young for this, but I can see the possibilities in the pilots that I'm running. As interesting as the ideas that I have described are, ultimately to prevent the risk that people will begin to see assessment as irrelevant, we need to create experiences that match their expectations of what assessments should be in a world where technology is embedded in all that they do. Taking a multiple choice assessment is old school. Leveraging technology, we can deliver assessments that are more interactive in nature, either through interviews with bots or through more reliable and scalable scoring of verbal and written responses. We could even design a create your own adventure type of assessment that is based on personal needs or known strengths and weaknesses. Virtual reality and similar technologies that immerse the test taker in the experience will have more fidelity and feel less like a test than a multiple choice question. In addition, advances in technology enable us to think differently about how we are evaluating skills such as collaboration, communication, writing, especially if we consider the types of data we can capture in a virtual world. As long as we are intentional about the data we collect, we can design an evaluation that is based on meaningful patterns of behaviors that help us better understand the test taker's engagement, collaboration abilities, and communication styles. Skills that are critically important in every job. One example of how a company is leveraging the ubiquity of technology and increasing use of digital assistants is assessments is OpenEyes technologies. Recognizing the people want convenient assessment solutions that happen where they are working on an AI natural language data collection platform for assessment, surveying, and employment screening. This solution is designed so that not only will test takers, be it students, job applicants, or someone seeking a certification or license, need not even leave the comfort of their own homes or offices. They won't even need to sit in front of a computer to take the assessment. The digital assistant will ask the questions and the test taker will respond verbally. The assistant will note the answer and move to the next question. Imagine the possibilities. Holographic computers such as HoloLens enable users to engage with digital content and interact with holograms. They blend physical objects and environments with 3D data, helping to increase engagement with and evaluation of abstract concepts. From an assessment perspective, mixed and virtual reality opens the door for assessing concepts that are too difficult or too dangerous to test in traditional ways. Further, it is an immersive, engaging experience that allows you to really see how someone would react in a variety of situations, increasing the fidelity of the evaluation process. Cognitive services and related technologies leverage powerful algorithms to see, hear, speak, understand, and interpret our needs using natural methods of communication. They will make it easier and more accurate to assess soft skills that are critical importance in every job. These services allow testing programs to move from structured response assessment questions to assessment processes that are more open-ended in nature, such as interviews, written documentation, portfolio reviews, projects, in a scalable, repeatable, cost-effective ways. If we are intentional in identifying the data that is critical to understanding engagement, collaboration, and communication, cognitive services opens a whole new world for soft skills assessment. Plus, they may improve and automate the localization of our assessment content at a much lower cost. Finally, technology is allowing us to think about other ways to assess relevant skills and abilities indirectly. Could something that evaluates your physiological measures, such as modeling eye movement, keystrokes, be a good predictor of communication and other soft skills that today we are evaluating in low-tech ways? Maybe. The Canadian Medical Board is currently doing promising research on this idea. So let's talk a little bit more about how technology can move assessment delivery beyond computer adaptive testing. Probabilistic modeling allows computers to consider uncertainties and estimate the likelihood of a test taker will complete a task or answer a question correctly. Leveraging technology, we can take computer adaptive testing one step further and present the right task or question at the right time to determine competence more quickly and potentially foster an ongoing learning journey, but more on that later. This would be a more effective approach to computer adaptive testing because it would optimize the item pool more efficiently. Going one step further, imagine the tool that is generating items real time during the assessment process based on the skills the test taker has demonstrated up to that point. Every exam is unique, accurate, and more efficient evaluation of skills. COVID has changed the way we think about assessment delivery in and of itself. Pre-COVID, many testing programs were resistant to online or remote proctoring. With the move to work and play at home, for business continuity reasons, many testing programs jumped into online proctoring. And we're learning a lot from that. The resistance to online proctoring was based on a perceived security concerns for these types of deliveries. The belief that test centers are the gold standard when it comes to security is misguided, and as such, fails to recognize that cheating happens in test centers too. It's a sad fact that if someone wants to cheat, he or she will, regardless of the test delivery modality. So let's talk about how advances in technology can lead to advances in security. Through technology, we can make our exams even more secure. Data forensics has shown us that we can identify bad behavior by following the data, and advances in technology only increase what we can learn from the footprint people leave behind when they take exams, or even while they're in the midst of taking an exam. Eventually, we will be able to develop exams on the fly, as I mentioned a moment ago, but we can go further. We know that proctors are expensive and sometimes corrupt. So this begs the question of why we even have humans involved in the proctoring process. Technology will allow us to employ machines as proctors. We can teach machines to do what proctors do, and they will be more efficient, more effective, and continue to learn what behaviors are appropriate and which are not through machine learning and artificial intelligence. Even if this idea makes you nervous, adding AI to a live online proctoring solution will certainly increase the likelihood of identifying suspicious behaviors and taking action, thus improving the overall security of your assessment. In principle, machines will reduce cheating, collusion, and proxy testing because they will make data-driven decisions on what is acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. They are objectively defined. After all, you can't bribe a machine. And now let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, psychometrics. Measurement, psychometrics, and exams, as we know them today, have been around for a millennium. This is not an exaggeration. We have evidence of similar approaches to assessment being used in China and ancient Greece thousands of years ago for job placement and education purposes. Further, psychometrics is about 150 years old if you go back to the work of Galton, and even our beloved classical test theory models and IRT are now 70 years old. We are dealing with a legacy exam design process that is analyzed using legacy psychometrics and that has not evolved to keep pace with technology, changing educational models, the explosion of knowledge, and disruptive factors like COVID. We are still largely measuring crystallized knowledge, what I know, at a fixed point in time, which is in direct conflict with the fact that knowledge is doubling in some fields every few months, and certainly less than a year in nearly all fields. How do we keep up with the pace of change and ensure that our measurements are relevant and useful for purpose for which they are designed under those conditions? As a testing industry, we have not shown the world that we can assess skills in modern and relevant ways. And much of this is related to the psychometrics that underline our ability to say if an item or assessment is valid and reliable. We need to completely rethink our approach to psychometrics to better reflect what and how we should be assessing, especially given the doors that technology advances have opened for us. As a timely example, as more and more people take assessments from home, I am starting to question the emphasis we place on standardized administration. Now, don't get me wrong, this is important, but the administration models that still involve candidates showing up at test centers with a fixed set of equipment that the test provider can completely control. But with more testing from home, it is becoming painfully clear that equitable access to our exams rather than equivalence has an increasing importance. As I said, standardized testing is important, but the benefits may offset by the rigidity that the model demands in times of disruption. Fairness, access, and equity are just as important, and the rigidity of standardization may be in direct conflict. Our current psychometric models cannot handle the changes technology allows in assessment or our need to change in times of disruption. If nothing else, COVID has made it strikingly clear that our psychometrics need to change if we're going to make bigger and more impactful changes in assessment. I leave you with this. Imagine a world without tests or exams, or at least without the traditional definition of a test or exam, because some form of objective evaluation of skills will always be necessary. To truly understand if someone has the skills to be successful in a job, we should be assessing people as they are doing something that is as close as possible to that job. When possible, this means that we should be designing in the flow assessments, in the flow of work assessments that evaluate skills as people are doing their jobs. XAPIs or similar telemetry could be used to determine if someone has the skills that they need to be considered competent. And at the same time, we could be identifying any learning opportunities that they may need. Barring that, we need to design assessments that get us as close as possible to what we will be doing on the job. These types of assessments are free form because there are many ways that people can accomplish the same tasks, and our scoring and evaluation processes need to account for that. Traditional analysis and scoring techniques that we have not been adequately designed to evaluate free form types of responses like this. That's the problem with our current psychometrics. AI with its natural language processing techniques and neural networks can be brought together to dramatically increase our ability to evaluate and understand unstructured responses. We need to focus on reimagining the psychometrics related to this type of assessment so that we can assess people the way they want, when they want. In addition, we need to expand our definition of assessment to one that is more integrated with learning and assessment experience, one that combines frequent, planned, low and high stakes assessments that not only evaluate competency, but guide learning. It's unclear to me why we are not yet embracing the learning mindset that is needed to be successful in every job as technology continues to advance so rapidly and become more embedded in all that we do. We need to break out of our paradigm of what we think is assessment. We need to stop creating obstacles that prevent us from thinking differently about assessments. If assessment becomes a seamless and integrated part of our daily experience that drives not only achievement, but ongoing learning, not only would we have a more accurate, higher fidelity evaluation of skills, but odds are good, people may see assessments are relevant and possibly, dare I say, fun. Thank you for listening to my crazy ideas. I hope that they sparked and inspired you and you come up with something that will help change the certification and assessment industry. Best of luck. I'm looking forward to hearing what you learn and talk about.
All right. So I hope that is spurring some thinking and that you found it inspiring. We're going to be breaking into small groups, but before I let you go there, I did want to just remind you that we're not starting from nothing. And as a former teacher, I can tell you that was the correct use of the double negative because the double negative implies a positive. So we are in fact starting from something. As Dale highlighted this morning, we've been working on many initiatives to move our assessment products into the 21st century. Among them, simulation for potential eligibility pathways, as well as within the assessments themselves. We're currently undergoing a redesign of the semi-interactive console item type, the exploration of maintenance of certification, both with ARDMS skills and with the CBNC case challenge item. The PCA is utilizing case-based assessments paired with education. And the ARDMS, we've started online proctoring. the SPI, and this spring's windows, so FE, PS, PE, NSKS, PS, did I say? I always I always think I'm going to miss one there, as well as our other groups, midwives and SVT GBI. They're both also going to be available online. So with that as your base, and with the goal of aiming for best possible, not most probable, we're going to break into groups to discuss the ideas presented and think big about the future of Inteleos. Some of your colleagues have already agreed to serve as facilitators of this session, and there'll be an assigned staff person in each group as well to assist as needed, and one to record your thoughts and ideas. So with that, in the magic of Zoom, we're going to send you into your breakout groups, and I thank you in advance for your thinking. And we're back.
We were still talking.
Warning to that.
We were
I was
still.
say, where was the warning?
What's going on?
And
Wait.
these breakout groups have the, they seem to do that to you. You're in the middle of a thought, and here you go. I did want to just, first of all, thank everyone. I hopped around to a few of the groups, so I thank everyone for the participation. Thank you again to the facilitators who agreed to assist in this. But I also want to let you know, this is not the last time we're going to talk about this. This is not the last time we're going to look at the thoughts that you created. As I think maybe some of you noticed, your notes are actually all going on to a shared document. So we now have everyone's all together. So you will see these again. We'll bring them out likely in council meetings to take a look at, an assessment committee conversation. So this effort will continue to be worked on. We are at the end of this session. I do want to remind you that if you go to your My Events page in Cvent, there are surveys for each of the sessions. So I do encourage you, if you haven't already, to fill out the surveys there's some for each session. So please do that. We do appreciate your feedback. We are coming back at 2:15 Eastern, so whatever time that is in your time zone, for the next session, which you will also access from that main page. So enjoy your 15-minute break, and we'll see you back here at 1/4 after. Thank you.